what I actually consider to be the very best news of the night, which is the referendums. So abortion activists were preparing for a couple of things, not just a Kamala Harris win, which would basically give them their woman in the White House, but also a number of abortion referendums across the country. And keep in mind that pro-lifers were basically running 12-0. They had lost 12 referendums. And I've detailed on other podcasts the severe challenges that pro-lifers were up against. But the first big news of the night was on Florida's Amendment 4. This is really unbelievable news. So abortion activists needed to get 60% of the vote to install abortion up until birth into the state constitution. This would overturn Governor Ron DeSantis' heartbeat bill, which protects babies in the womb at 6 weeks. This is really important because Governor Ron DeSantis is the most pro-life governor in the United States. When the New York Times ran an expose of him, the worst thing they could find on him was that this guy wouldn't shut up about abortion even when he was, teaching history at school, which just made me like him even more. DeSantis has said he doesn't trust anybody who goes wobbly on the abortion issue because for him, it's an issue that is about preborn lives. It's about saving the lives of children in the womb. And so Florida was a purple state like 5 minutes ago. It was a state that could swing either way. And what Ron DeSantis did is he didn't go for a, say, 15-week ban or a 12-week ban. He went straight for a 6-week ban and then worked to defend that because he knew that would save the maximum number of babies. And so both abortion activists and pro-lifers recognize that Florida was an incredibly significant race. Because if Ron DeSantis could be defeated in Florida, in a state that is now, based on the election results last night as well, a deep red state, it meant that even a state that would break for Trump was still pro-choice. It would affirm Trump's decision to become pro-choice. It would also basically signal to the rest of the Republican governors abandon this issue entirely. And abortion activists spent $118 million to try and pass Amendment 4 in Florida, and they failed. It's the most fantastic news of the night. They failed by a couple of percentage points. Pro-lifers were outspent 8-1. Pro-lifers simply do not have the kind of cash that abortion activists do, that Planned Parenthood has at their disposal, that the Democrats have, and that, of course, all of the free propaganda from the mainstream press, which is publishing abortion lies nonstop, regardless of accuracy. Pro-lifers were only able to spend $12 million. Again, the abortion activists spent $118 million, and they lost. And Governor Ron DeSantis made all the difference. He is now the de facto political leader of the pro-life movement, bar none. And he and his beautiful wife, Casey, were tireless in their defense of the unborn. DeSantis did interviews. He pushed back against pro-abortion talking points. He used all of his power and influence to defend unborn babies. Everyone said this couldn't be done. Again, even Trump. He wouldn't say yesterday morning whether or not he had voted for Amendment 4. DeSantis has proven to every GOP governor and politician who has been running from this issue since Roe was overturned that one can actually run and win on conviction rather than in spite of it. We saw in Ohio, like Governor DeWine put forward one really anemic statement. And now we're seeing a lot of politicians damned by contrast. We're seeing this is what it looks like when a GOP governor is actually pro-life and actually defends babies. Because Governor Ron DeSantis stood in front of them. They're the most vulnerable members of our society, and he was willing to spend political capital to save unborn lives, which is not something we're seeing from a lot of other GOP politicians. DeSantis always reminds me of a great quote by Margaret Thatcher, the UK's Iron Lady. This is on an old episode of Firing Line with William F. Buckley, where he talked about establishing consensus. And she said this, quote, "For years now, the word has reared its head. Consensus. You must have consensus. It's a word you used not to use when I came into politics. We had convictions, and we tried to persuade people that our convictions were the right ones." That is what Ron DeSantis did. And according to estimates that have already been released today, the failure of Amendment 4 will save over 50,000 unborn lives every year. This is staggering. It means by 2028, by the time the next presidential election rolls around, hundreds of thousands of lives will have been saved because Ron DeSantis had convictions. He ran on those convictions, and people will be alive as the result of that. So there's more good news as well, because despite being outspent by, again, massive margins, pro-lifers also succeeded in some other referendums. So in short, one of the reasons it's important to know this is the losing streak of referendums since Dobbs was broken, not just by a Florida outlier, but by a number of votes in a number of states. So Nebraska was really important. Nebraska voted down Initiative 439, which was a proposed amendment to Nebraska's constitution that would create a right to abortion until fetal viability or when needed to protect the life or health of a pregnant woman. That basically means abortion up until birth. That Initiative 439 failed 51.3% to 48.7%. In South Dakota, Amendment G, which would have created a constitutional right to abortion, failed by even wider margins. So 59.5% to 40.5%. And then additionally, and I was very thrilled to see this as well, a proposed constitutional ban on, quote, medically assisted suicide, euthanasia, and mercy killing, end quote, in West Virginia was, as of this morning, with 90% of the votes counted, slated to pass. The Associated Press has already made the call. This means that a ban on assisted suicide, euthanasia, and mercy killing in West Virginia is now part of the state constitution. So again, I don't want to put on rose-colored glasses here. It's not all good news. Pro-lifers did lose some abortion referendums. This was expected. It's more unexpected that we won some of these significant referendums. So Missouri, Colorado, Maryland, Montana, and Arizona passed constitutional amendments enshrining abortion into the Constitution in various ways. In most of those states, abortion was already illegal. This is basically abortion activists trying to solidify the gains they've made since Dobbs. That's also true, for example, for New York State, where abortion is already illegal, through all 9 months. They also passed an Equal Protection of Law Amendment, which basically just further entrenches abortion and makes it incredibly difficult to get rid of it. So that doesn't really change the status quo on the ground, but it does really entrench the gains that they have made. But now the pro-lifers, we kind of know the lay of the land. Kamala Harris ran on abortion and she lost. She is not going to be able to change a lot of the norms of American democracy just to ensure that Planned Parenthood's agenda is passed across the country. The losing streak since Dobbs for pro-lifers has been broken, and we have a model of convictional pro-life leadership in Florida that every GOP governor that is genuinely pro-life needs to look to. It can be done. Ron DeSantis proved it could be done. So all those people who are saying, well, Donald Trump was so clever, he needed to pivot to this position on abortion in order to win, we know that's not in fact true. Florida has got a 6-week ban now. And Ron DeSantis single-handedly defeated that ban. $118 million versus $12 million spent by the pro-lifers. And he did it because he told the truth. He used his influence on behalf of those who had no voice, and he managed to get it through. Keep in mind here that Donald Trump has been holding a pro-choice position. He has been saying that a 6-week ban is harsh and extreme, and Florida voters actually rejected Trump's position and adopted DeSantis' position. So DeSantis, again, a model of convictional leadership that we need to look to. My view is that he's probably one of the most important Republican politicians since Ronald Reagan in terms of his character and his willingness to defend the things that are important. We dodged a lot of bullets, the pro-life movement did last night. The breaking of the post-Dobbs losing streak was essential. Kamala Harris not operating the levers of power was essential. The fact that abortion activists poured all of their efforts into putting her in the White House and lost, that's essential. We'll see what happens now with Donald Trump, but holding him to account, trying to push him back towards the pro-life position, attempting to get him to redo some of the things that he did in his previous term, that's going to be very important. It's also going to be very tough, because it's also true that Donald Trump ran on a pro-choice platform, and he scored a massive victory having run on a pro-choice platform. The first Republican president to win the popular vote in a long time is also the first one who removed the pro-life plank from the GOP platform. So I do not want people to think Trump got elected and now we don't need to do anything because he's a great guy. We have a pro-choice Republican president. We have a pro-choice Republican first lady. And the task of the pro-life movement is not to back Trump. It's to ensure that the babies actually have a voice, because they are currently voiceless. And Trump has committed not to defending them, except in the rarest of circumstances in the late stages. So that's the task moving forward. But we have a better idea of the lay of the land now. Some really good news. The results from yesterday means that tens of thousands of babies who would have died through abortion now will not. And that's just an extraordinary thing to consider. Once again, sorry for coming to you. We're on the road doing pro-life fundraising. I'm giving a speech tonight, actually, and we'll be talking about some of the things that happened last night. So sorry for coming from this background rather than my own studio, but that's the reason why. If you found this commentary helpful, again, please share it with people. This pro-life social conservative analysis of what happened yesterday. You can find our podcast on any platform. And please do leave any comments that you have underneath this video so we can engage in any discussion. And I'd love to hear from your perspectives. So again, thanks so much for taking the time to listen.